pandemic, because it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic.
Architects out there that truly respect landscape and are able to design a befitting home that is one with the landscape.
And it's always white. What are we doing with this white boxes? Some of the things we learn in architecture school in Nigeria.
Isn't this what architecture is supposed to be about?
It seems like as soon as we leave the school, it's straight out of the window.
One of the most interesting things about your post to me on social media is you sort of call out some of the things I noticed with, especially, I'm not sure about other countries, but more specifically Nigerian architecture, and the poor quality of the builds, and the way in which they're just kind of seem like white cardboard boxes with no natural airflow, no dark. You know, sometimes when they go in the house, it's so dark, and they rely a lot on indoor lighting. And sometimes I wonder, like, you live in a country where there's abundance of natural lights, and yet you have houses, sometimes even mansions, that are seemingly like caves and are not spectacular in any way. They all look the same from one mansion to the next mansion to the next mansion. There used to be a show I used to watch on Netflix, and I loved this show so much. It was I don't know the name now, but it was like they would go around different areas in the world and show you like beautiful architectural landscapes and homes. And I think that show made me decide that I'm going to have to custom the house of my dreams, because I realized that first of all, it's possible, and then secondly, you can there are architects out there that truly respect landscape and are able to design a befitting home that is one with the landscape, as opposed to a home that just sticks out and looks absurd. For example, the houses they would build into like caves or like mountains or in the woods somewhere. You know what I'm trying to say? Like beautiful pieces of art. It's like it became more than just a house. It's like it was art. It was an artistic statement. And I thought, isn't this what architecture is supposed to be about? Like, yeah. So I think you're the right person to talk to about this in terms of how are we getting it wrong, and using Nigeria as a case study, since that's a place where we're both familiar with and a space where we understand. And yeah, talk about architecture. What does it mean to you? What is it? And how can the Nigerian-based architects do better, pretty much? That's what I want to talk about. How can we respect our culture and have a bit of that show up in the way that we design our homes?
Yeah, thank you for that question. First of all, I'm going to put a disclaimer up, right? See, architecture is one of those disciplines in the entire world where anybody can criticize you. When you first get into architecture, it hurts you, because somebody that knows nothing about your job, you can barely see somebody telling a surgeon you're not doing it right. Of course not. Nobody's going to tell a surgeon you're not doing it right. But somebody, it could be a registered architect, an award-winning architect could upload a design today, and somebody that just got into architecture school today could criticize him, and he's not going to take it the wrong way, because it comes with the job, right? It's now your prerogative to try to educate them. If they're missing something, you have to tell them these are the reason why I did like this, that. They still might not agree with you, but you have the facts, figures, the
technical know-how.
Yeah. So yeah, that is it. How I got into architecture myself, my older brother is a very renowned artist back home.
Nice.
He doesn't do it anymore now. Yeah, I grew up wanting to be like him, right? He, like, one of the best artists from Osun State, right? Back in Oyo, before Osun became a state, when it was still Oyo State. My second older brother he got into that as well, and he went to college, and I went to college to study architecture. I didn't know what architecture was about, but the first time he came home from college for the holidays, came back home, and he brought home all these blueprints and everything. And I'm talking about back in the days where, at least in the Nigerian market, there was no AutoCAD, there was no computer-aided, drawings. There's no, you can't draw your concepts or anything, the designs on the computer. These are just straight hand drawing. And I was so fascinated because I knew I didn't want to be an artist. I was trying to find a balance between art and science. Architecture was that for me. I just knew, I saw my brother and I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And that's it. So both my brothers influenced my decision to be architects. I wanted to be a doctor when I was really younger. And
on your own accord or something?
On my own accord, no, not
okay,
my parents.
that's pretty cool.
My parents, I think my parents has to be one of the earliest progressives because them themselves were progressives. I think I told you the story about how they came from two different sides of the spectrum. They just let you do whatever you want to do, let you choose whatever you want to do, they let you choose your own career, let you, do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter to them as long as you tell them it makes you happy. Yeah, that's it. To most people, architecture is subjective, right? The post that I quoted, the post was talking about what went wrong with Nigerian architects. Were taught the right thing in the school? What happened? Why have we lost our identity? And I think the person that wrote the post is not an architect. He doesn't know much about it. I think it was just a concerned citizen. Like, what is going on? Why do we have no idea?
Right. And I also want to specify that it's like modern architecture, because some of the architecture that are impressive in the Nigerian landscape are typically older buildings that existed there long before these modern structures. So yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with us Nigerians. We are known to go somewhere else, pick something out, and say, "Now this is ours." Now it doesn't work like that, especially not in architecture. There's nobody in architecture that will tell you today that, oh, when I was in school, my professors just told me to design a box. No. In fact, those professors hated those so-called modern architecture. They don't like it. No, you can't do that. Every culture has their own identity. There's a whole course, about 5-unit course, what we call 5 credit, whatever it
credits,
is. It's big, right? That is traditional architecture in Nigeria. So you learn about all this vernacular architecture all over Nigeria, how each culture build their homes, how they make it work with the weather, how it's climate friendly, eco-friendly, how it's low cost, how the ventilation is working, the natural lighting, all this sort of stuff. But it seems like as soon as we leave the school, it's straight out of the window. And one of the things that the other people under the post were talking about, it's what the clients want. It's what blah blah blah. I'm going to send you somebody's link. She's a lady. She's an architect, a registered architect actually in Nigeria, but she does not do architecture anymore. She does architecture, but she doesn't do commission building anymore. She writes for architects now. She's an architectural writer. So I think you should actually reach out to her, and she will be able to tell you the reason why she stopped. She stopped because she was done with being told what you should do by clients. Right?
Interesting.
But the thing is, maybe a lot of people cannot afford to do that. Right?
Right.
Maybe a lot of people just like, you know what, that's what you want as a client. I'm just going to give you what you want. I don't have no time to argue with you. I'm going to give you whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it moving, right? But the thing that we have to do as architects, we have to advise our clients. Every architect should have a philosophy? What guides your design? What are the things you bring into your design? Every architect in the world, we call them star architects, high-end architects, like Zaha Hadid, Norman Foster. Every single one of them have the philosophy behind the design, what guides their design, ties down to materiality, ties down to structure, ties down to shapes, if it's parametric, if it's the curvature, if it's Zaha Hadid is inspired by fabrics, I think.
I've not even heard that name before.
Oh, she is like one of the greatest architects to ever live. She is amazing. Well, she was amazing. She passed away.
She's passed away.
Yeah, but she is a revolutionary architect. In fact, I think she might be, to me, she might be the greatest architect ever to live. So you have to have an identity. And if the client does not want what you have to bring, then they can go to the next person. I'm not a rich guy, right? Somebody approached me and said, "Oh, I need blah 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 blah." Mm-hmm. I let them know, okay, these are the things that initial sketch. We're doing the plans, this and that, blah blah blah. But when we start to get to what are the materials we're going to use, I want this place to be open, that place to be open. We have to look at the city codes. We have to look at the locally sourced materials. We have to look at the weather. We have to look at the HOA codes. We have to see what is in the area. I cannot drop a white box in the middle of a whole neighborhood in a historical preserved place in fourth ward. That's what they are going to kick us out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even if I want to build a modern building in the historical part of Fort Worth, there are so many people that I have to go through, and I have to still incorporate what makes that part of that city historical. And I have to bring those elements into my design. But the thing with the Nigerians is we look up stuff that is happening in another country. We're like, oh, I like it. Bring it in. That's it.
Yeah.
Most Nigerian architects I don't even think we have landscape architects in Nigeria.
What does that mean, landscape architects?
Landscape architects are the ones that actually design based on nature and find a way to incorporate their design into the natural topography, natural vegetation, and all that, and even to make those things better, right? So they are the ones that design parks. Most parks are designed by landscape architects, but we don't value green areas in the motherland. It's so loud because we grew up knowing green areas. You understand what I'm saying? Like now we just want everything to be jungle, concrete jungle. Everything is concrete everywhere, marbles everywhere.
There was a post I saw, one of these I don't know, Lagos realtors, and he was
talking about.
And he's like, oh, whatever. I went through his entire spiel, and then he's like, this I think, what did he call it? Did he call it a lush garden? And I was like, is lush garden in the room with us? Because all I saw was concrete. There was a little, I think I saw like maybe a few plants, but that was not lush garden, And that's another thing about the buildings, the modern buildings in Nigeria, especially Lagos, because that's what you see a lot of on the internet. Why are you guys tiling your entire yard? It's not right. It's not right. And in that show that I was watching, since you mentioned you said landscape architects. I think landscape architects formed a majority of the architects that I watched on that show that I was telling you about. I think I don't know the name. I'm gonna find the name.
I think I've seen that show that you're talking about. It's
yeah.
Like, Yeah, they go into different terrains and follow the
Yeah,
architect during the design, the programs, the design
yeah,
development, the construction of the home or whatever it is.
right.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know the show.
it's
I've seen it. I've seen the show.
yeah. So, yeah, you're correct. And of course, the people that were commissioning those projects were obviously stupid wealthy people, like freaking
Oh yeah.
rich. But I remember though that even in that show, the owners would sort of push back
Mhm.
at the architects and would say like, oh, I don't want this, or I would prefer this. And I remember that those architects would always push right back and like, no, I'm the expert, I know what it's supposed to be, I know the best case scenario, and I'm going to go ahead with my plan. There was even an episode where the architect quits and he said, well, I have to do this my way, you hired me for this job, and if you're not going to allow me be an architect, then you can find somebody else who will bend to your whims and caprices. So I think I mean, these architects are probably very wealthy as well, but I think it kind of speaks to the integrity that you spoke about, whereby you're not just going to tell me what it is you want. I'm the expert. So I have to be the one to tell you what's going to work. And just like with everything in the Nigerian space, he with the most money makes the rules.
Yeah.
You understand? So an architect would probably not want to stand up to the person paying them because at the end of the day, I want to collect this money. But I feel if you really love the job and you're really in it for what it is you went to school for it for, then it's probably best to maintain your integrity and be like, hey, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this. Because maybe if we had more architects like that, Nigerian based architects like that, we wouldn't have the displeasure of seeing the nonsense we're seeing online.
It's actually shameful. It
Yeah.
is. It is shameful. I look at some of these so-called buildings, and I'm telling you, all you see, it's always a white box. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't understand. Hidden roofs are they are the most expensive to maintain. They're so expensive that it's always one leaking here or there because the roofs are not meant to be eaten. Only I know even if you they are hidden, it's not supposed to be eaten all the way around. Yeah, I mean, what are we doing? And it's always white. What are we doing with this white boxes? I don't understand. It's always a lot of reflective surfaces, a bunch
Yeah.
of glass, a whole lot of strip lights. So what do you think this is? This is not a studio. This
And
is
they
a
have no windows.
home.
They have no windows. They look like bunkers.
Oh, some of them have windows, but where the windows are, that's where the sun is going to hit, and the whole house is hot. Not the whole house is hot. The whole house is reflective. The house that you were talking about that you saw, they have the floors were tiled, the marbles, everything. Do you know the kind of hazard that will go on when it rains at that place? People are
Oh,
going to be falling left, right, center. People are going to have head injuries, brain injuries, right there. I'm serious. That's just what
yeah.
it is.
That's true though. I mean, logically,
Yeah.
if you think about it, that's true. Yeah.
But in Nigeria, like you know, when you have money, then anything can happen. A lot of people they construct their homes without even getting the proper documentations. So it happens a lot in Nigeria. They don't have proper documentations, and then or somebody fraudulently approve their documents, and later the building get torn down and they're shouting, "Oh, right, this one will build under high tension cables." I said, "Oh, they didn't tell me, sir." So are you telling me you are passing under this high tension cable? You didn't hear the frying sound. Have you passed under the high tension cables before?
I've
You
never
you
heard.
you will hear you will feel like you are frying akara. I'm telling you, you will hear it
Yeah.
from the bottom because it's high tension. You're not supposed to be there. You die of radiation. Basically, it's so bad. But our
Mm.
people will risk their lives for dumb stuff. So this pandemic, because it's a pandemic, it's a pandemic. there are so many designers, there's so many architects that I see that have amazing visualizations. Like they know how to manipulate. See, me, I'm old school, right? If you look right there, you see my drawing board. I'm old school. When I'm talking to a client, we get down with the drawing board and everything, and we do it that way. And all of my design starts from right there, and then before I bring it to the computer. And even most times when I bring it to the computer, I don't even do the whole visualization thing and all that. I just try to get into how we're going to start construction. That's me, right? But now everybody wants to see, what is it going to look like? Well, sir, we can't even agree on how this building is supposed to look. That is why there is not a lot of a lot of commission architectural marvels in Nigeria that are done by foreign architects because they don't like working with Nigerians. Because Nigerians say, I have money. I mean, they run out. It doesn't work like that. This architecture we're talking about, they have integrity. They have what they stand for. They have their own identity. They have what to be. And then they have to incorporate that with what the identity of the nation when these buildings are being commissioned.
What I was going to ask you next, that what does African architecture mean to you beyond geography?
Geography has a lot to do with it. That's why architecture is very holistic. Architecture touches everything, right? Architecture touches art, touches sciences, touches commercial. It touch the money, touch the art behind it, the design behind it, also touch the structures, the engineering, right? So it's hard to take anything out of it. If you look up some nature-based designs in Bali, you will see what they are doing with bamboo over there. Ridiculous structures with bamboo, right? Because that's the geography. Architecture's a problem-solving career. You solve the problem that you are facing. You solve the problem that you are facing in the building and construction design industry. That is the problem. What is the problem we are facing in Nigeria architecture? In Nigeria as a whole, we are facing HVAC problem. It's one of the biggest problems in Nigeria. Most places in Nigeria do not have central sewage systems, right? Almost every home has their own sewage system, right? Almost every home. I don't know how it works in Lagos, but I know down in I don't know, Lagos is so uppity now. I don't know what they're doing on an island and all this. But most homes have their own sewage system, the private sewage system. There's no central. Most home doesn't put in central AC. You see those little white boxes in the living room, in the bedroom, in the kitchen, because there's no central AC. We don't make provision for that, right? But we are really not supposed to think about that. We're supposed to make our design work for us. That means we have to consider the climate, we have to consider the electric, what's the nature. See, here, there are things they can rely on because they know as long as you pay your bill, you're fine, right?
Right.
So that also has a lot to do with how we build homes here. Only reasons why they include windows in bedrooms is for egress. And for egress purposes, just so if the house is on fire, the person in the room can escape. That's the only reason. Because that is the city ordinances. Because the city wants to make sure that everybody in the home is safe. If there's a fire, they can climb back out the window, they can jump. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not because of the natural lighting, because they don't need it. They have 24 hours working electricity, unless you are not paying your bill. Do you know how archaic hydroelectric power is? That's what we still use in Nigeria. We are not ventured into converting fossil fuel into electricity. We have not even touched on solar. at all. Despite the sun, you enter Lagos today, the sun will go knock your head. You understand what I'm saying? We are just wasted. All these God given resources are just getting wasted. There is a guy, I don't remember his name now. I want to plug him in because I want you to look into his work. He's an architect as well in Nigeria. This guy is an advocate for breeze blocks. I don't know if you know what breeze blocks are. I don't know.
I can imagine.
Yeah, do you remember those little
red bricks?
Red bricks back in the day that has the
holes,
designs, that has the holes in there.
Yeah.
It was like, where did this thing, where are they now in Nigerian architecture? The only places you see those things now are in designs from 1960 something.
Yeah.
We don't use those things anymore. Those were part of our identity as part of Nigerian identity. I'll send you some Iranian brickwork. Iran is known for her. You see Iranian architects actually making parametric architecture with bricks. Ridiculous craftsmanship.
In my mom's village, when I visited my mom's village in, I would say like 2013 maybe, my granddad's home in the village had those bricks. Also, even on my dad's side in his village too, they had houses with those bricks. And that's what I said in the beginning of our conversation, is that when you come across breathtaking, exceptional, unique architecture that sort of reflects its environment, you find those in older structures and things that existed before now. And that's why I think this conversation was very important to have with you today, is because we can see that even in architecture, there's a lot of going back to remember who we are that we need to do.
Yeah.
It's not only in our socioeconomic or cultural lifestyles. It's even in our arts. It's even in our architecture. You know, why is it that the breeze blocks we're talking about, why are they only in old buildings? What stops us from, incorporating some of those designs and then building off of them and creating an even more modern and up to the time design, borrowing from those, that arts from the past, as opposed to, like you said, throwing these giant white boxes in spaces where they just look funny, and putting all these marbles on the floor, interlocking tiles. I remember that started to become a thing, on the floor, creating unnecessary hazards.
That was the start of it. Those interlocking tiles was the start of it. When I was growing up, right, the only thing that you get from the road to your house was the brown sand that led from the road to your house. That is it. The rest is just lush grains. It was like that. It used to be like that everywhere. My primary school, my secondary school, it was like that. Everywhere was filled with, lush grains and all that. Even the buildings were not high rises. I don't know what's our obsession with high rises and all this other stuff. We don't need that. Like, we have the land. And even if we want to do that, that's why I say I will send you some Iranian architecture. You will see high rises and you'll be like, whoa, what is going on here? You will not even know that they're using brick until you get closer. It'll be like, what an amazing work of masonry is going on here. You'll be surprised what they're doing. It will amaze you how many buildings in Nigeria. If you cannot dig more than 3 feet into the earth in Nigeria before you find clay, I'm talking about top grade clay. Anywhere you are in Nigeria, top grade, white, red, dark brown. It's everywhere. Back in the day when you used to be in an art class back home, they'll tell you have to make a little clay bowl and everything. All you had to do is just dig the ground until like 3 feet. And you can just grab your clay and just fill it back up, and then you will make it your pot. I can take the pot to school tomorrow.
You know what? That is very, very true. Even growing up as kids, we used to play with the clay and mold it into different
And so
things.
little things.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Those are the things that we are supposed to be sourcing for. What is this problem with all these concrete blocks everywhere? What are we doing?
How do you think that architects in Nigeria can better integrate native or indigenous materials or local craftsmanship into these modern structures that they're raising up these days?
First thing is uh, the integrity of the craft itself.
Right.
And I think the biggest problem we have with that is everybody's trying to eat. There's hunger in the land. And when there's hunger in the land, whatever, if somebody brings money and say, oh, this is money and I need you to build me a matchbox, a lot of people are not even going to argue with that person. They're just going to design a matchbox and say, yeah, here you go. Right? Because he needs to feed his family too. You get what I'm saying? So that's a huge problem. I don't know how we can solve that, because as long as
as long as the economy is the way it is,
as long as
things remain the same,
bad governance, there are people that are like making money for their fourth, fifth, 10th generation right now. If there's hunger in the land and people don't know where the next meal is coming from, they'll do whatever it is the client wants. If you're waiting, you're a freelance architect and you're just waiting for a job for quite a while, and somebody tells you, give me a white box, just make it look like all those things that I've been seeing on Twitter. And you just say, oh, yes, boss, I got you. That's it. You give him what he wants. He will pay you the money. You move on. That's it. Whether he actually builds it, it's not your problem. Now you just deliver the job and it is what it is. Most of them don't even call these architects back and say, you know what, architects, I've got the design, I've decided that I want it built to the specifications that you made. So for that to be done, you have to be the one to supervise it. No, a bunch of them don't even do that. They go and get somebody that knows nothing about it, and before you know it, it will tell you that, oh, I finished the building. You go to the building and like, this doesn't match with what I designed in the first place. Because they have made their own changes. But the reason why they are able to do that, because we don't have city ordinances.
Yeah,
we don't have. Man, let me tell you,
nothing is organized.
No,
anyhowness.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. It's as long as the poverty situation that we have in our country is still going on, it's going to be really hard to change. It's going to be very hard to change. We're still building. We haven't changed. And when we say we change from bad to worse. Because I believe the houses we were building back in the day were not the best. Let's say they were bad. What we are building today are worse. Everything we are building today is like straight to the left field. We have lost the identity. You need to see, there's an architect, Francis Carey. I think he's from Burkina Faso, but he's a German as well. This man is a big pioneer of incorporating the locally sourced material into architecture. He builds he's award winning and globally recognized, and that's what our architects are supposed to do.
It's pretty interesting because I never was able to connect our economic situation in Nigeria to architecture. But in speaking with you, I mean, I was able to connect it to other aspects of life, of society. But in speaking to you now, I can also see very clearly how our economic situation also impacts our architecture, impacts our, for example, our sewage systems and things like that, the anyhowness, the lawlessness. You know, that's why it's very important for us to keep talking to each other, regardless of our disciplines and trainings, because we will most certainly be able to connect the dots. And in solving our economic situation, we obviously, apparently, will be able to solve a lot more things than what most people would even imagine are being impacted by poverty,
Yeah.
by what am I going to eat?
Yeah.
And it's quite sad what traditional building methods or principles from pre-colonial or maybe even from back in the day architecture that you think is deserving of revival.
So it's one thing and one thing only. It's the clay. Clay. It's all about the materials. It has always been about the materials. It's always been about the how you bring what is easily accessible to people and bring those things together and make it awesome, something to behold. That's what it's always been about. It's not, oh yeah, let me just drop this right here. See, there are going to be outliers, right? There are going to be outliers. See, there's there's an architect. His name is Richard Meyer, right? He's known for doing stuff like that, just dropping things that doesn't belong there, and just drop. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's his own art.
That's what I'm saying. There are going to be outliers, but that's just exception. That's not the rule. That's and that actually Richard Meyer is an exceptionally talented architect. In fact, he's so talented that when he designed his floor plans, right? His floor plans actually, when he's doing his elevations, he actually mirrors his floor plans in his elevations. The way he designs the facade of his building, he actually make it to reflect the way the floor plans look like. It's crazy. And he will go and drop that in the middle of a community that only have red bricks. And it's going to be boom, a white building full of glass, everything. But that's what the people that hire him, that's what they hire him for. It's not a bad thing. But that cannot be the rule. We have to learn to start working on nature-based architecture.
Very important.
Go back to when we knew from back in the day, right? We knew from way back in the day that our parents used to, go to the stream and go and fetch the water and bring it back to the house and everything. How about we run a water system? How about we run a rain collection, purifying water system that run across the house like a stream? That when the collection system collects the rainwater, it comes through the house, several filtration, and it runs through your kitchen. It keeps running through the entire house with several filtration system. And there's going to be one that's going to be like a water feature. That's going to be a little fountain. It still runs back down and goes to that filtration system and runs back down to another filtration system that goes into your kitchen that runs like a stream throughout your cabinet system, throughout your island, like all around your kitchen. and it's going through there. In that way, you're cooking in the kitchen, the water is running, and I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Water is running, and you are washing your vegetables and everything, but that water that is coming is completely clean, and the vegetables you just washed is going through another filtration system. So the one that is going to the water fountain is clean. How did our ancestors, how did they cool their homes? Most of our climates, most of the time, it's very hot and humid, right? How were they able to? There were no ACs, there were no fans, right? But they still survived, right? And what did they do different? How about we start looking into how we can actually, that was what they did in Indonesia, and figure out how their ancestors used the bamboo to the strength of bamboo is unmatched. And one of the things that we actually have bamboo in Nigeria as well.
Yes, we do.
But we never use it. We never use it
We
for
do.
anything like that. You understand? So how can we try to manipulate all these locally sourced materials? How do we get the palm tree leaves and everything? How can we get that to cool? Because that's what our ancestors used as their roof.
Exactly.
Can we embed? Do we use those things as the insulation for our roof instead of using all these foams and everything that is making the environment, it's killing the environment? How about we use those things? How about we find out a way? How about we employ a bunch of scientists to see how we can actually, use that and see how what different ways they can be implemented to make our, cool our rooms, to make our rooms hot when we want it to be hot, to make it cooler when we want it to be cooler. Employ a bunch of scientists. Go see how this earth right here, go see how we can make it better to do something for our homes. It's just easy. We should start from the school where nobody is living, right? Start from the schools. How do we cool our classrooms? We know there's no electricity. So how do we cool our classrooms during the day? There are ridiculously modern homes in the United States that still use firewood furnaces.
Yes, they do.
They use the firewood furnaces. They still use the same furnace as the stove. I saw a Chinese kitchen the other day. It's a smoke. They found a way to make smokeless firewood stove and oven.
And just listening to you talk, I'm left just, connecting a lot of dots, which I'm finding both mind blowing and also humbling at the same time. And part of what I'm coming to realize in speaking to you is how nature really does provide us all it is that we need. And if we would just look back to nature and allow nature do what it's meant to do, we will be able to build sustainable, authentic African architecture using modern science and just basically optimizing what it is our ancestors left. Another thing that speaking to you has made me realize as it relates to architecture, which is something that I don't know a lot about, which is a good thing that I'm talking to you, is that just like with everything, but just like with most things, we neglect the wisdom and the way of life of our ancestors. We ourselves have internalized looking at it as archaic, as bush, not progressive, not nostalgic.
Yep.
And it's quite a foolish way to think. Because just as you pointed out, and you rightly did so, there are houses, and I know a few, I'm friends with a lot of people that use firewood,
Mhm.
in their homes for heating. And I can't tell you how actually nostalgic that is to me. when I see stuff like that, when I see firewood, when I see old antique kind of stoves, but with a modern twist, like these are things that I love to see in homes. To me, this is art. To me, this is beautiful, you know. Um, so in a very interesting way, I'm able to tie our general colonizer, if I want me for lack of better words, colonized mindset to even this aspect of life. Because if you tell somebody now that, oh, let's, put up a clay house and let's use, they'll be like, what is that? Like, no, like, I need these, you know, don't even get me started on interior design. Ha, God. If I see one more gold lion, if I see one more gold couch with gold handles, I'm probably gonna faint.
Right.
So it's actually nostalgic talking to you in hearing that, I'm just imagining like an authentic African home, incorporating some of these natural materials. Not only is it staying true to ourselves, it's also sustainable. Because like you said, most of the materials that these people are using, they're having to bring in
Yep.
just to belong. When you live in a place like Africa, when you look all around you and there's vegetation and there's beauty, you don't take advantage of that landscape. You just do something that is just so alien for the sake of, you know, I can own a home that looks like it's from Canada in Lagos. When that's not the point. You understand? Whenever you look at cabins, cottages,
Yeah.
I love things like that. I've thought about having a cottage as my home. You
I,
understand? As my main home, not my vacation property.
I understand what you're saying because let me tell you. So when I was growing up, right, I grew up in I don't know if you remember this, what we call a flat,
Mhm.
a flat back home. It was like a 3 bedroom flat, but it was the only house in the compound. So we had, we had, uh, we had a backyard garden. We had a backyard garden, and we had like what they call it here, eggplants. We called it garden eggs back home. We had jute leaves. We had like all those things that you just want to make a quick soup. You go to that backyard, little garden, and you can get like everything that you need except for the salt and maybe the seasoning. That's it.
Mhm.
You want to make some greens, you go back there, you get it. You get this, you get the peppers, you get tomatoes, get everything. You back at the house. Next hour, now you eat it. You understand? So all those things are lost. A lot of the kids that we are raising these days don't even understand. A lot of a lot of people these days can't. You're like, oh, I don't want to be a farmer. Do you know how much money farmers make? Do you know that farmers run countries like the United States? I didn't know this. Our talk would ever go this way, but I have a whole bunch of stuff that I will send you about the
Okay.
people that are actually practicing this architecture in Nigeria. I just found I think it was about 2 months ago. I just found a
Oh,
hotel in Ibadan that
wow.
is like the epitome of Nigerian architecture. I could not believe it. I'm saying the exterior, the interior, the design, the names of each room, completely organic. When I
Wow.
send you this, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay, now I want to go stay there." It's a
Wow.
ranch. It's like
Yeah,
a
I would definitely love to see that.
telling you, your mind will be blown. You'll be like, "What?" Hey, and that's the thing. That's the thing with identity. And these are some of the things we learn in architecture school in Nigeria. We learn about identity. When we were learning about that, what that means is when you see a certain type of architecture, you should know where it is from.
Right.
What is Nigerian architecture? No, nothing. I was telling you about the Iranian architecture. I was telling you about the geometry behind the Arabian architecture.
Yeah.
I was telling you a little bit about Byzantine. I was, you know, so I'm telling you about different architects and how they bring their own views into their designs. I told you
Right.
about Zaha, I told you about Richard Meyer, I told you about Norman Foster. And those are the identity. You should be able to know who this architecture belongs to. You understand what I'm saying? But
Absolutely.
we have whitewashed our identity into trying to feel into to some type of trend. Problem with Nigerians is trend. That's the thing. The only thing that we try to not be trendy about is whatever belongs to us. We don't do trends with what belongs to us. No, but we do trends with what belongs to other people. And we want to make it our home so bad. Always about, and it still ties back to the selfishness that has been embedded in us for so long. We don't do anything for service. I'm saying we. The only reason why I'm saying we is this because it's the majority. I know I've served my community so many times, but I'm still saying we. I don't do it, but I'm still saying we because it's the most of us. It's just been embedded in our DNA that the first thing that comes into our mind is wait till I go shop for this deal.
Yeah. We've lost the special gift of collectivism, of doing things for
Yeah,
the community, for the
for the
common
community
good.
without,
We've lost
yeah,
that. That's
without,
part of the things that I'm going to talk about, and we're probably
yeah,
going to have a chat about.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I'm very happy that because in speaking to you, and I say this, in speaking to you, I've been able to connect what it is that we're trying to achieve with Afromanjaro in terms of remembering who we are.
Yeah,
I've been able to connect a lot of what you said to that mission, to that purpose, because it, like I said earlier, it goes beyond just remembering, our communities and how we organize, and remembering the types of food we ate and how we relied on nature to provide us our food, and it goes beyond all of that. I was starting to. It's sometimes it's sad. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes I just feel like it's almost like our identity is on the brink of extinction.
it
Like it's been
is.
erased. It's been erased so much that talking about things that are ours sounds foreign. It's like
Yeah,
it's the reverse. You know what I mean? And in speaking to you, I'm able to connect it. Wow, look how far removed we are from, you know, our structures, our buildings, our homes. You know, imagine if we stayed true to what it is that our ancestors built, and then just adding modernization to it in terms of new technologies, in terms of science and new methods of engineering, because things have obviously progressed since that time.
absolutely.
And then, but keeping those things intact, because like you said, the renowned architects that you've mentioned, you've talked about them building and having their own art, their own identity, but you've also mentioned about how they also reflect in their art the identity of the people and the land in which these structures lay. That is a way, or in fact, that is the way
Anyway,
to
yeah,
honor the land, to
yeah,
honor the people, to honor the identity. And we, as Nigerians, are dishonoring our land and dishonoring our ancestors by ourselves. It's not foreigners coming there to put in
no,
these white boxes. It's
no,
us. And it's one thing to just blame the architects. That's what I thought that it was just them, just building
no.
nonsense because, but you've made me understand that no, these people are So I was gonna say, like, is it a form of like, do they need some kind of educational reform? And you're like, no, we have the best of the best people
Yeah,
teaching architecture. It's a matter of, no laws, no rules, no support, no
yeah,
systematic support for architects to be like, okay, this is what you need to do. It's just like just with with everything else. The man with the more money in the pocket makes the rules. I'm gonna hire you as an architect, but I'm not gonna let you be an architect because it's my money. I want you to just copy and paste this house I saw in this neighborhood in the UK somewhere, in Canada somewhere, in some country in Europe. And so the architect is forced to comply because at the end of the day, the economy doesn't allow them to be choosy, about which jobs they collect and don't collect. I'm talking about
yeah,
the majority of
yeah.
architects. Are there any Africans in Nigeria that you think are getting it right? And you talked about the people in Ibadan. I don't know if you know their name,
Uh,
but
uh, yeah, I'm gonna look. I've reposted some of their
some of their
video
stuff.
on Twitter.
These conversations will be definitely be ongoing. Like, we're probably gonna have to have a part two of this because now I want to really explore the the people that are getting it right. I want to see that. Those are things that
Yeah,
I want to promote. You
yeah,
understand? Those are
yeah,
things that we need to promote. Those are things that we need to talk about more. Because those things are sacred. Those things are beautiful. Those things are ours, and
absolutely,
deserving of our protection and um our audience. Yeah.
absolutely.
So definitely I would look forward to maybe finding out the name. After the call you can
There's so many amazing architects out of Nigeria, but
I
if
believe that. I
yeah,
believe that.
oh,
I
oh,
believe that.
oh,
Completely believe
I'm
that.
telling you that
They just don't have the environment is not conducive for them to express their knowledge and their art to its full,
no, absolutely,
which is a problem for most Nigerians who are creative people, who
yeah.
are pioneers of new discoveries. It's the environment that is debilitating. It's the environment that is not nurturing of the arts, stemming from the economy to the lawlessness and just anyhowness. You know,
See, I think that's the first time I ever heard that word when you first say anyhowness. It's the any. It's that. What does this guy say? The two face. Nothing they
okay.
happen. Nothing they happen. That nothing they happen is one of the biggest problems in Nigeria.
How can communities, not just architects, be part of redefining the African space, the everyday people? How can we encourage or how can we model our own spaces to go back to the sustainable structures that our ancestors once used? What can we do as people?
This is a loaded question because there are only two ways, right?
Mhm.
Well, it's not two ways. There's only one way. The one way is to starve. That's it.
To starve.
Starve. Yeah. Let me tell you why I say to starve. Like I said, what that problem is, the biggest problem with creatives in Nigeria is that whatever they're doing is not enough to feed themselves, not to talk about feeding the family.
Right.
So they would do and conform into anything. They will conform into an uninformed client to get that client what he wants so they can get some money to feed their family. When I say the only way is to starve, is to get there, now you have to stop taking jobs. You have to stop pandering to what the people that actually have the money controls the economy, the government that has that's saying, I know you're starving, take this 50K and vote for me. Make sure your whole household vote for me. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the majority of Nigerians. right? That's the majority. Those are the people that actually control it. The majority of Nigerians are poor, and they're the ones that have the enough number. The poor people have enough number to control stuff. The only reason why they're not able to do it is because nobody is ready to start. And I'm not gonna blame them for that.
That is the biggest, that is one of the biggest issues that we face. That is one of the biggest issues that we face because a hungry man is not a thinking man. You know, there's not much that you think about other than what am I going to put in my mouth next? What am I going to put in the mouth of my children next? That, and you know, that's by design too, right? These
Oh, absolutely.
governments,
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
by
Yeah.
design.
That's the way they control the masses. When the choice is your kids starving or you selling your soul between a rock and a hard place, what do you do?
Yeah.
That's why I said when you asked that question, I said the only solution is starving. What we are going to do is to decide where we stand, right?
Yeah.
Let's decide where we stand and say, okay, come what may, this is where we are. We're not gonna waver. We're gonna do this. Comes down to architecture, comes down to politics, comes down to our daily everyday lives. And you go somewhere, they treat you bad, you walk out. A client approach you, you want to build a house. You tell them, okay, this is my philosophy, this is how I do it. Where you trying to build a house, this is what is in the environment, blah, blah, blah. I think we should mirror it. I think everything should look like it belongs to the same environment. If they say no, you say take your job somewhere else. But they have to consider you have a family to feed. Are you gonna go home and tell your wife, oh, I just refused $12 million naira contract today because I'm staying to my philosophy? We're gonna have to pick where we want to stand. We have to pick where we want to stand, talking to our politicians and voting for whatever politicians. But it's whichever. It's something that I read said everything, whatever you do in life, especially if you're trying to succeed, is hard. You have to pick and choose your heart. Is it
Yeah.
staying in shape is hard. Being out of shape is also hard. You have to pick your heart. Being broke is hard. Grinding every day to make money is also hard. Which hard do you prefer? Do you prefer grinding every day and having money, or sitting down every day and not having money? You have to
Right.
pick. Both is hard.
Yeah. And to add to what you just said, in terms of even us as regular citizens, we can also help these architects um, be themselves and do their jobs correctly by going back to our original way of life. This is my ministry. By going back, by remembering the things in which our ancestors did. If we did that, and if we honored that, and if we went back to our authentic aesthetics as Africans when it comes to our structures and our buildings, then our architect would indeed be free to be an architect in Nigeria because they are trained to, like you said, use the elements and materials around them to mirror the structure that they're about to build so that it looks like it belongs.
Absolutely.
So, as a people, we have to declutter and decolonize our own mindsets and go back to what it is that makes us us. It's a two-way thing. We have to help ourselves. We have to be proud of our origins again. You understand? So I think that is a wonderful place to end this chat. I will be looking forward to getting some of the names that we talked about today, just do my own little research about them and further talk about why it's important for us as African peoples to embody our identity, even away from ourselves, into our homes. And also, I would really love if you could find the name of the artists and the architects in Ibadan that are doing this correctly. Because as much as we have the criticisms, or I don't want to call it criticisms, the encouragements, we also need to give audience, amplify, give visibility to people that are getting it right, to people that are sticking to what it is that makes them them, because that itself is beauty and acceptance of who you are.
Thank you so much for this again, and I hope we can make this a continuous thing.
Thank you for being here, and we'll connect again next time.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.